Whoa, where are you?
Where am I? I'm in my office.
Ooh. Are you on a mic?
Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had it, I was just finishing up lunch. I had it tilted up north, so that's probably why you couldn't hear me clearly.
Oh, you have a mic?
I mean, not a mic. I mean, like the headset part on my headset.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't cheat on you. I wouldn't cheat on you. Like, yeah, I'm kicking back in the studio here at the house with a couple $1,000 mic set up, and leaving you to your headset and laptop.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, though.
No, it's true. Nothing wrong with that. But we'll get there. We'll get to the studio version before you know it.
Pretty soon we're going to be on video like Rich Roll.
Is he on video?
Oh, yeah. He's starting to do video now. Or he has been for a little bit.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. Good for him.
I quit following him.
You did?
Yeah, I dropped him.
You dropped him? Hot.
Yeah, I went through a Twitter purge the new year, and he was a guy I dropped.
Wow.
Yep.
You dropped Rich, huh?
Well, I mean, I just, I don't like things one way or the other.
Okay.
I don't like, I had to, drop people that all they seriously do are like retweet or post politically motivated, like outlandish stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like, I just don't need that shit. Get away from me. And then at the same time, I also don't need like a daily tweet that's always biblically powerful and motivated, and the stars are all aligned in greatness.
Oh.
I kind of need like a little bit of reality,
So you mean you'd rather have a balance from an individual than a balance from two separate individuals?
Yeah. I just want reality. I mean, life is awesome, but it's not all motivational quotes and Instagram filters. I just like a little dose of like, if you've never really just said, I've had just a shitty day, then I have a hard time taking everything that you say for granted.
Yeah.
Or because not every day is awesome. It's just not, but hey, if you have it that way, then good for you.
Yeah.
But I'm just not going to follow you on Twitter. So
yeah. Why do we get like that? I mean, I think we've all had that tendency. Like I used to get in those kind of grooves where I'd be like, wanting to post, like this clever, insightful quote that I just created every day of my life, and but it's all bullshit because, like, just because we go through a phase where we think we've got it figured out and we're everything's perfect, doesn't mean we can't be just as excited about having some shitty stretches. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that is what I'm trying to say. It's just that it does get a little overwhelming. It
does. And like people who have never had a bad run or a bad ride or come on now. We all have them. Mm-hmm. Shit, my last 2 runs have been absolute shit. That's for sure.
Have they?
Oh yeah, big time.
In what way?
Well, I've been like really, I mean, I'm definitely like pushing the limits of the fatigue before I start like some like more 70.3 like specific prep, but I think I've been pretty I think 1 day off since Christmas.
Yeah.
Each time when I was sick, but I mean, it's it hasn't been anything outlandish and crazy, but I think I'm definitely carrying a little bit more fatigue, but it's definitely time for some new shoes. I'm definitely not totally blaming it on the shoes. We kind of had this conversation in our closed group about when you get new shoes, and I always just kind of use the barometer of like, if I go out for a run that I shouldn't feel trashed from, and I feel like achy and my feet are sore, my body, like I'm like, yeah, it's time for new shoes. And I felt that way after my run on Sunday. I did like the exact same route the previous week, and it was a struggle. Just no leg pop, no leg turnover. And dude, when I woke up the next day, I was like, man, I am like really struggling.
Does that fatigue set in and affect your form in a negative way, maybe a little?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because I had also done one of my hardest if not hardest, interval sessions of maybe even ever on that Friday, and I knew that I was going to be hurting. But then I ran yesterday. It's just funny, like, how we had these days. Like I did an hour and a half yesterday on the trainer with some hard work, and then did 40 minutes on the treadmill in the garage, and it felt awesome. And then went out this morning and ran with some hill work, and it was straight up, the struggle is real. Like, dude, my hamstrings were just super tight, and I had no pop, and it really was. It was just like, it was a struggle. And my feet and my body just felt like they were crumbling a little bit. I don't know if that's just straight up from all the fatigue, but I think also, like, it was raining here. And I think for me, just like running and, like, I don't know, but yeah, it was total shit. But that's life. It's like, they're not always going to be, sunshine and roses. But but I mean, that's why training and doing stuff like this is so much like life. That, like the day before, I didn't expect to have a great run, and I had an awesome run. And so you're like, but today is great. So then tomorrow probably could be more than not really it. Today's terrible.
Yeah.
So but you just kind of got, what? It just is what it is. And, I think there's always things you can look deeper into to address it. Like, I should hit the foam roller a little bit more. I'm definitely way overdue for any kind of massage. I just don't do a very good job of that. I know that I should. I know it's kind of a luxury for some people, but Allie and I like to have that, like, Massage Envy membership, and she goes like once a month, like, without fail. Like, uses her, like, me time. And I'm just kind of one of those guys, like, I'll just kind of let them pile up and then go use them when I really, really need them, which really isn't smart, because they're usually like, you know what, you should probably be in here for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm like, yeah, but I just don't have that kind of time. Even though I do, and I should just take better care of myself in general. But I mean, generally, I take great care of my body. I think I just sometimes when I get, when you find yourself looking for, like, trying to figure out what's wrong, it's usually too late. Like, you should have just prevented it on the forefront. Like, I even looked back and I'm not a guy who's huge on, like, the numbers, like the mileage on your shoes. But I ordered new shoes over the weekend after that run, because, like I said, I felt trashed. And I looked back on Amazon to figure out when the last time I got my shoes were. September 20th. So it's been a minute. It's been a good 5 months and well over 700 miles in those puppies. So definitely due on the shoes. And so, definitely something. But I don't like buying stuff in general, so I'm kind of cheap when it comes to that.
There we go. We're talking about the fifth discipline of triathlon, maintenance.
It is. It is all maintenance. And today it was just like, I have this pretty substantial hill coming up to finish up my runs at my house, and it was like, how it is when your whole hamstrings are just like so, like, just not locked, but you can just tell they're so wound up that that you're just going up a hill, and you're like, God, like, I would probably be just as fast if I just, like, fast walked this. That's how tight my hamstrings were. But I did some recovery stuff, did some foam rolling. I'm gonna get a massage tomorrow. Got my new shoes on the way, and I'm just gonna wake up and pretend like I'm back to normal. Hopefully I will be, but yeah, it's so much of it's maintenance and taking care of yourself, and you just gotta and I harp on it all the time. My athletes too, I get on to them if they don't do maintenance stuff. It's kind of when I a couple of weeks ago I started sending them a video every week. So each athlete that I work with gets one video a week. It's kind of just like an update on how they're doing and how I think they're doing, and then the week ahead and what that's going to look like, because I do 1 week at a time. And that's what I try to always kind of focus on is besides some other important things, just like, listen, the best thing you can do is eat right, sleep right, hydrate well, and take care of all the little things, and just let me take care of putting in the work. because that's the stuff that I can't do, as a coach is, how are you eating? Are you foam rolling? Are you stretching? Are you taking care of yourself after the race? Because there's so many different variables taken to, are you sabotaging yourself in the kitchen, or out to eat, and there's just, or are you traveling a lot and not hydrating? And I've got athletes that come from so many different, that have so many different life circumstances and work obligations that some are in the car 2.5 hours a day. That's a whole different animal. Some are constantly jumping from flight to flight to flight to flight, and so you can be dehydrated, and then you're stuck in a hotel gym, where the average temp is like 105. I mean, they're always like brutal in there with like no ventilation and no fans on the treadmill. Or you have people who've been on their feet all day, or you have people who are sedentary, and so there's just so many things that can come up. You just have to be really, really diligent about recognizing, the pitfalls that your just normal day-to-day routine might cause, outside of feeling great when your workout is done, and then let's say you go sit in a car for an hour and a half, commute to work, and then you go sit in a chair all day.
Yeah.
Okay, now talk to me about, tight hamstring. You and I both work from home, and and I sometimes I catch myself. I can be sitting at the computer working on training plans and reviewing stuff for like hours, and I'm like, God, I've literally been sitting here for 3 hours, and I can feel like my hips tighten up, and my glutes, and my hamstrings, and everything. I'm like, I just need to get up and walk around. So, it's everything we do affects the next. We always talk about that in triathlon. It's the swim affects the bike affects the run. The run is where you get things done. But you have, you train, let's say you train an hour, 2 hours a day. Well, you can't just sit there and pretend that the other 22 hours a day aren't going to be affected or affect that 2 hours, or be affected by that 2 hours by, how you sleep, what you drink, do you hydrate well, how do you provide, do stuff in the kitchen, it's just, there's so many things taken into consideration. And I think when we get into a good groove, sometimes it's easy to kind of get lazy in terms of the maintenance stuff and the cause and effect that pretty much is everything in your life.
Yeah. Life is such a grind, man. It really is. I mean, I'm not complaining, but like you're saying, I mean, it's like sometimes I'm the sorest when I get up after editing video for three hours, and I'll get up and walk around. I'm like, Jesus, what the hell? I feel like I just, ran hills or something, and
Yep.
I kind of have a theory now that I'm brewing on.
Uh-oh.
It's been a long time return, or a long time absence of the theories, but like yesterday, I actually had a good run. And it was, it wasn't great, but I'm making a little progress. But it was still weird because on the way back, I felt pretty good. I ran about 6 miles or something, 6.5 miles, and it was a hilly-ish run. On the way back, it's kind of flat. And I said, look in the distance, get that little lean, just relax, and just kind of find a groove. Don't look at your watch for like, I don't know, a minute or two. And then see what happens. And I was feeling good, and I was flying, and I was relaxed. I had nice form and everything. And I looked down my watch, and I was going like 8:50. And I was thinking I was going probably like 7 something. So my
Don't you love that, man?
My speed isn't. I'm like, whoa, dude. My speed isn't quite there. But I felt pretty good. But I'm still trying to be patient with it. But I got home and had a good night and felt pretty good and clear, and went out and did a little something last night at the Entrepreneurial Center, and got home and had a great night. So I woke up today and I felt like shit. So my theory is, it's like when things are going good, or if you have a bad workout, you can maybe expect a good one the next day, and the next vice versa.
Yeah, you know what? You just never know.
You just never know. I mean,
you really don't. I mean, and you just don't know. And we've all had, if you're listening to this podcast and you've trained for even just like a week, you know that like you've had those days where you're going like, I'm just going by feel, and you look down and you're like, oh, 7s for sure, 8, 9, 850s, okay, maybe I'm not. Or you have one of those days where you're like, this is probably around, 8.5, maybe 9. You look down, it's like 740, and you're like, what if my GPS is right? Like one of those run days. You're like, kind of when you get on your bike and you're thinking, yeah, yeah, I bet you my rear wheel's probably low on the PSI.
Oh
It's
yeah.
probably yeah. My rear brake's definitely rubbing today.
Hmm.
And then you check. I've had many of those days on the trace, and you get to the rest stop and you check back there, and it's like, yep, perfect PSI. Brakes aren't rubbing. I'm just having one of those days. But you do, and like even and on the same like level of how things kind of undulate between days is you can wake up thinking you're going to have and like feeling incredible, and then you work out and your working out kind of has a different ending for you. It just goes terrible. Or you wake up assuming that you're going to have a really terrible workout because you're so fatigued and think you shouldn't have one, and your body responds and like in a miraculous way, and you just dominate. You work out, and that's just, it's so much of like the one of the other like million reasons why you just should do your best to shelve expectations when you go run, or go ride or swim or hike or whatever it is you're doing, and just approach it as a singular event that is fluid, instead of this run is going to be great, because as soon as it goes to crap, then that's when it becomes really easy to quit, because you've assumed something is going to be this, and when it even like remotely rears its head of telling you it's not going to be this, then that's when most people pile it in. When you're feeling great, everybody wants to go longer. It's like, oh, I have an hour and 20-minute run, but I'm feeling awesome, so you go for 15 more. Like, I've never read a single Training Peaks comment ever in the history of coaching that's like, God, dude, I was just feeling like ass today, so I went an extra 30. Like, it's just, it never happens, and
Right.
so,
Yeah.
which it shouldn't, but it's that the mental mind games, the mental tricks we play, are so much a part of what we do on a day-to-day business, or what was I saying? On a
Basis, maybe.
yeah, day-to-day basis.
Day-to-day
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, but it is your business each day. But yeah, on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's also maintenance in terms of like understanding that, and then because it's also really easy to get mentally and emotionally lazy when things are just rolling really, really well physically, and you tend to take your workouts for granted, and then one kind of sneaks up on you, and you're like, oh, I definitely wasn't ready for that, and you weren't ready to kind of make, the mental decision to keep going or to push harder, and so it's just. Yeah, and that's what makes training so great, and racing and doing any kind of sport, and kind of being a part or immersing yourself in a plan and in a routine and in a habit that always asks things that are different of you each and every day. And I think that's why this sport in itself, with having 3 different disciplines, is so appealing to so many people, is that it asks something different of you almost every day, in a different way, shape, or form, or intensity, or duration, or discipline. It's ever changing, and it's from a mental standpoint. I think it's what drives a lot of people to come to this sport from a strict swimming or cycling or a strict running background, is they like the change of pace. They like things changing up, but still, even when you've been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long you've been doing it, you still never kind of have it. You're just always you just always need to be kind of on your tiptoes and alert and ready to roll, and have like a really high level of awareness when it comes to training and racing and doing any sport.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is a grind. I like what you said about shelving expectations, because back to the original discussion about posting, uplifting stuff and everything like that. I haven't been in the best spot lately emotionally, and it's been gloomy and kind of rainy and cold and everything like that. And every once in a while, and I'll have to, I'll go on and check Facebook or whatever. That is the worst place to go, by the way. If
Why? Yeah.
I know, but it's just like part of our business. I'm kind of checking in, but it's not the group that our closed group on Crushing Iron.
No.
It's good stuff. It's not like it's not that. I don't know. I get a sense of very real stuff in there. More real, and it's kind of like we can laugh at ourselves and be normal, I guess. But like, if the minute I go onto my main feed, it's like, whoa, I know people are so quick to, like, I don't know. It's just sort of like they see something that inspires them, and they're not inspired, so they throw it out. And it's nothing against anybody. It's just a culmination of what's going on in the world. You start seeing all this stuff that, like, it's like, man, my life sucks compared to all this stuff. you really start seeing that. And I'm already excited because I'm going to New York next week. I'm going to post all kinds of awesome, fun pictures from New York.
Yeah,
like, I'm going to be on the
should.
road showing you guys how much fun my life is going to be.
See 20 Sex in the City.
Yep, pretty much, yeah. But anyway, I mean, if I may take a little diversion on just because it's an important topic to me, this whole...
we can do whatever we want to.
Yeah, it's true. It is our podcast. This whole concept of... every day training, getting up and trying to balance swim, bike, run, and your maintenance and your food and your diet and your life and all this sort of stuff. And I had a good friend from my college days and high school. We grew up together and everything. And about 6 years ago, he ended up passing away. And he was not feeling well, and he finally went to the doctor, and he found out he had cancer like all over his body. And he was having back problems a lot, and I just didn't. But anyway, he was like really, I think for the most part positive. But I've never met a guy more real in my life. Like he would just laugh in the face of disaster and kind of just take stuff as it came and whatever. But towards the end, he was really tired a lot, and we were having a lot of phone conversations. And I'll never forget what he said to me once. He's like, "Man," he goes, "I am just wearing out. My and he had a lot of problems with the addiction issues and things like that. So that's the preface, and usually, a big part of what's going on, obviously. But sometimes, as it's not always easy to figure that out and to get out of that hole. So he would talk to me, and we would talk for hours. And I remember him saying this once, like, this thing is just wearing me down, man. He goes, I can't. I'm just like, every day I wake up and I'm like looking at a pile of mail, and I got to do dishes, and I got to clean out my bathroom, and like all the life stuff, that mundane sort of like, I got to go get my car fixed. I got to, pay my bills. I got to go to the post office, whatever. He said it was just, it was wearing him down, and it was bringing him down every time he woke up, and that's what his day looked like.
Yeah.
It just got deeper and deeper. So I always think about that, it's like as far as like, I think he had the wrong like perspective, or for whatever reason, chemically, biologically, socially, or whatever. He couldn't get over that hump of like, he was addicted to excitement. And so everything he approached seemed he wanted it to be something of a rush, and I'm always very aware of that, and I thank him for that lesson, because workouts aren't always exciting, and like, all these things aren't exciting, but that doesn't mean they can't be enjoyable, or sort of make you at peace, or just like, it's just sort of like what we have, and to put false expectations on everything we do, even a race, like these false ideals of highs, and trying to let that carry your life can be very tricky terrain. And I just always like to think about that. I just wanted to share that because it had an impact on me, and I think a lot of people deal with it, whether it's the grind of getting up and taking kids to school, or driving, across town to, drop off a thing and getting stuck in traffic. I mean, like, there's a lot of shit that's kind of like can get in your head and start bringing you into a bad circle or cycle. And I just think there's as I said, there's always an analogy between triathlon training and life, and we talk about it specifically as in swim, bike, run, and our workouts and our races and things like that. But there's always lessons to be learned in there, and like I said, sometimes when you least expect it, going to get the mail can be a good thing, or going to do your run can be a good thing, or whatever. So it's like I think it's important to kind of try to stay out of loops. You know what I mean? You guys probably talked about that a lot, right? It's like how your mind can get in a loop of everything isn't what you expect it to be or hope it can be. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out because I thought maybe you'd have some thoughts on.
No, yeah, I mean it's and I think it's an important subject to cover. As this the time of year that we're getting close. We're in race season, but we're getting really close to actual races, and so you have athletes starting to do that. Yeah, I think I'm capable of this, or I think I should be able to do this, or I want a PR of this. And obviously, as a coach, you want them to just ultimately be successful. But when you hitch your whole wagon to something like that, and you don't get it, it's incredibly unhealthy. And you can look at it in like so many different ways of, validating your self-worth, proving other people wrong, whatever it is. Like there's so many, as with all things in life, work, relationships, whatever, like there's so many opportunities for things for what should be healthy to be incredibly unhealthy. Are there healthy aspects about Facebook? Sure. Ways to connect, ways to keep up with people that you love and you want to see how their life is doing. Are there unhealthy aspects of it? Yeah, 100%. But it's your approach, and a lot of times it's your filter. But it's that we say it all the time, and it was one of the most lasting quotes or kind of piece of wisdom that somebody told me when I was in treatment was, more oftentimes than not, expectations are just future resentments.
Mm. Yeah,
and it goes with everybody. It goes with marriage, and it goes with in like the day to day of, well, you make these. We fall short so many times in our just a regular day to day, that when you start to make assumptions or expectations, and you base everything on that, then really like there's only one outcome that's going to be quote unquote worth it or agreeable. But the reality is, in the world we live in, there's like a billion different scenarios that can happen. And so your chances are not that great. And so if you're in a relationship and you assume that your partner is going to do this, and they don't, then you're like all of a sudden like totally upset with them for a reason that's like totally like they're totally unaware of. But it was this unfair assumption you made that they were going to do X, Y, and Z, or give you X, Y, and Z, or be X, Y, and Z. But the only person that had this, you're treating them unfairly because you made this ridiculous assumption based on just something that you wanted, or you assumed with no communication. And the same thing like we do with racing in terms of like when we pull these numbers out of the air and I can do this and be this, but we have one control. And I thought about this on my run today, to be totally honest with you. When we have great runs and when we have bad runs, I'm just using running as an example, that's when our mind starts to wander into fantasy land or nightmare land. Like you're having a great run and you're thinking, oh dude, I bet I can do this in my next race. And then 2 days later you feel like the most incapable run on the planet, and you're like, yeah, but this race doesn't really mean that much. I think I could probably be ready for the next one. Like all within like 72 hours.
Yeah. I know.
Do this shit all the time, and I even did it today on my run. the last 2 runs I wasn't like, it wasn't negative thought, but it was bringing myself back into reality of, there is absolutely one thing I can control. How I mentally and physically prepare for my race, and then executing it to the best of my ability given what the day gives me.
Yeah.
And that literally is all I have control over. I have zero control over the rest. Over the time it gives me, over the weather conditions, over the other athletes, or whatever it is. It's literally only about my execution, my preparation, and my mindset. That is all I can control. And the rest will just be what it is. But it's pretending that, but if I have total control, then I can do this. And then you don't get it, and not your world is shattered, but all these like unhealthy perceptions of yourself, or these demons you're trying to fight, or these people you're trying to prove wrong, like they just begin to like manifest themselves on like steroids. And you make these like outrageous, we make these outrageous claims. Like I had an athlete who's been pretty inconsistent lately and trying to get back in the horse, and this athlete comments on Training Peaks, all right, this is it, this is day one, not going to miss a workout the rest of the year.
That wasn't me?
No, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. My first comment back was, yes, you are. And that's okay. It's not like, but we do that. We're like, I couldn't do 10 hours this week. You know what? I'm going to schedule 20. I'm all in, baby.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not it. Like, saying I'm not going to miss a workout, or I'm going to nail everything the rest of the year, is just not going to happen. It's not. If you're telling yourself that you're going to hit every single session, you're never going to take a day off, then one of two things are going to happen. A, you're delusional and you're in la la land, or B, you're going to choose to do something one day when you know you 100% shouldn't, and then the rest of the year is going to fall apart. But it's just we make these claims, and we make these, no, they're not claims. We just make these like mental justifications in our mind to help keep these unhealthy thoughts and demons at bay, even just for a minute.
Yep.
It's not an addiction, but coming from personal experience, when I definitely used to have a unhealthy relationship with a lot of the sport. Like I know what like there's just nothing wrong with accepting that whatever the day gives you is okay.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell ever happened to, like, today was just shitty. I didn't feel good. My relationship didn't have the greatest day. My work life sucked. And I, had Burger King on the way home and cried in my driveway before I went inside. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna act like it was all great, and I'm gonna, hit up a Tony Robbins post, and I'm gonna be on it.
Yeah, it is.
That's just not real life, and I think accepting that. I don't know if it was you said or it was like whatever. There was an article I read that was like the accepting, or the acceptance of like having a somewhat like monotonous, boring, minimalist lifestyle. However you want to frame the word minimalist. I'm not talking about like living in a, tiny home with one pair of shoes and a pair of gloves. I'm just talking about like, not feeling like you have to keep up with the Joneses 24/7, or at least portray that you are. It's just like, guess what, guys? Besides the few dogs that we, gained as listeners from the Dogcast, most of you are human. We all are.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have crap come up. We're going to miss workout. We're going to have shitty days, and we're going to have great days. And so accepting that off the front, that you're going to mess up along the way, and you're going to make probably really poor decisions along the way. And accepting that in the beginning, I had an athlete. I know you're not really doing a good job moving me along here, but I had
I'm trying to get in there.
But I'll finish with this one. But I had an athlete who had a biopsy to test for some, some non-good things. And they commented in their Training Peaks after a day of actually like kind of plugging through workouts and said, I took today off. I did it, and I just sat with the anxiety and the stress and the uncertainty of where my mind actually is, instead of pretending like it wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just thought that was incredibly, I don't know if mature is the right way or wise, but just like 100% healthy, to like recognize the enormity of, or the possibility of something like that with anxiety and stress, and like just recognizing and sitting with it and being like, yeah, you know what, this is how it is right now. So I'm gonna soak in it. I'm gonna feel all the feels I need to, and then I'm gonna move on as best I can. But you know what I'm not gonna do? I'm not gonna expect myself to get up tomorrow and just act like it's disappeared. Which is what we often do in life, is just mask and pretend like everything is great, when in reality, there's a fire going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I feel like a lot of times we do two things. We either take ourselves too seriously, or we have a hard time loving ourselves as we are. And, we talk about, it's funny that we both love Bukowski, and it's so, I don't know if it's ironic or what it is, but it's funny that his whole thing is don't try. I mean, this guy's like the biggest addict you can ever imagine, heaviest drinker and out of control life, sex addict, the whole 9 yards. And he comes up with this theory that says don't try. And it's on this expectations level. And if we go into these races, like, always worried about what we're going to do that day or whatever. It's kind of like, I think about this stuff all the time. It's like, then we look at, like you said, Tony Robbins' post or whatever, and I think about like Instagram, for example. Everything on there is just like perfect, right? It's all these beautiful photos, and I think a lot of times about maybe I'll start posting my shittiest photos on there, and that'll just be our thing, because you can get inspiration from like I always used to say, I'd go, like, we live in Nashville, right? So I'd go out and I'd really just love seeing new bands that I've never heard of that I just kind of stumble on. And you walk in, and if they're great, you can be inspired. And if they're really bad, you can be inspired, because you're like, man, I could do that. I could do that. And the bad side of things is almost like more inspiring in a way. Or it's like it again, it's back to the beginning of the conversation. It's like, it doesn't always have to be one way. The balance of things can be, not only refreshing but grounding. You see somebody have a bad performance or whatever, and you're like, well, everything isn't always perfect on that person's level. It's the stuff we don't see. It's like you socialize, right? And you go out with your friends all the time, and this is more so back in the day, but every time you'd see somebody, it was always everybody's pumped up and happy and partying along and going crazy, but you don't see, it's almost like you don't see their other 22 hours either, So you don't know what's going on in their life, but you assume that everything's perfect because of all these, happy-go-lucky, socialistic sort of moving targets that you see out there. And then it's like the same thing with social media posts, and everything's like, they're not putting up the bad ones, I used to do that once in a while, just put up awful selfies just to kind of like...
Maybe it should be our thing.
You take one, that should be the rule. You take one selfie, and one selfie only, and that's the one that's going up. You don't take 20 and pick the best one. Just kind of to keep it more real.
It is. Because some of those Instagram posts, I'm like, listen.
Do people post bad workouts? That's the other question, right?
Well, yeah. No, they don't. Nobody ever said terrible session.
Somebody, once in a while I see them, I'm like, all right
maybe
for them.
I'll start doing that. But like, I see, like, especially with like Instagram, like the pictures, I'm like, no one looks like that when they get done working out.
Uh-huh.
And if you looked like that before, then you just wasted 2 hours of your day getting primed and ready and taking like a bazillion shots. Like, who the hell has time for that? But it is. It's just like there's just so much it is. I think
that's not really kind either. We were talking about that. Be nicer to people.
Well, it's not kind. It's bullshit. And It's
You
like not
know,
even close to kind.
it's a weird kind of twisted lie, you know.
You could look at it as shaming too.
Mm.
But versus like an alternate reality, which is what most things are anyway. I think it just comes down to keeping things and this looks different to everybody. I think it's just a matter of like where your life is and what you want your life to truly look like. Is to keep things as genuine as possible. With like, so oftentimes we feel we always need to add like bells and whistles to everything in life, or make it seem like we're one thing. We're always need to portray an image that we're always at least like a couple notches ahead of like where we really are. But especially if you're already like truly happy with your life. And I've always I've thought about this a lot recently. It's like when people ask, so why do people always ask like with the first thing they meet you? Oh yeah, nice to meet you. Like, so what do you do for a living?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the most important thing about somebody's life. It's like not even close most of the time. Like, and if you just responded like, well, I'm a loving father and husband, and the rest is just kind of stuff that I have to do to make ends meet.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Regardless, yeah, totally non-interested, non-interested. But I mean, like, listen, like most of the people that probably listen to this podcast would be totally bored out of their mind with my day. It's incredibly simple, incredibly routine-oriented, with like as little effect of like the outside world as possible, as much as I can, and I absolutely love every part of it.
Yeah. Well, you know that. Jocko Willink, have you ever heard of this guy? He's a former Navy SEAL. He's got a podcast. He's pretty big podcast. He wrote a book called I think the book is called Discipline Equals Freedom. Mm-hmm. And his point being is if you just get up. I mean, he's like big about posting pictures of his watch at 4:30 a.m. when he's getting ready to work out and stuff like that. And he's always trying to drive that Navy SEAL kind of mentality. But his point is that the more you take care of and the more you just kind of like, all this mundane stuff that I was talking about earlier, like the take care of the bills and opening the mail and driving, whatever, just getting that stuff done, that's what frees you up to have time. So your discipline routine is the thing that creates the space for you to, have the free time to enjoy the things that you really just want to do without the guilt.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I admire your boring day.
Well, I mean, it's
simple day.
I think
simple day. It's not boring. That's the point, right?
It's to me, it's not boring, but to me, like I think once you have an understanding, or if you've developed like in your life what you feel like is enough, then you'd have so much extra energy to give to what you deem is enough, instead of using so much or wasting so much energy trying to always find more, or do more, or act like this or be like that. And like, yeah, dude, like my life is pretty low key, pretty simple. But I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And it encompasses, all the things that I value most in life, being a husband, being a father, taking care of myself, and the athletes I get to work with. And literally that takes up, 99% of my week usually. I mean, it just does. But that's why it's also a way to feel so energized, because you're only pouring things into something that you're going to get something back from. Being a parent, being a husband, being a coach, working with athletes, like I get more from those things, those 1, 2, 3 things in life, than 100 other things you could go try and search for if you're trying to fill a void. And that's just I just think it comes with life and experiences, and then just figuring out, or even asking yourself, what do I really truly like? What is my enough? And when it comes, and it'll look different obviously for everybody, but when it comes to training, like what is what is a healthy thing for me to actually ask myself and be fulfilled with what I get in return? And I guarantee you, if you really think about it and you really put pen to paper and you really kind of go through what things are going to take and how things are going to look like and what the result's going to be like, if you sign up for, when I had just an athlete sign up for their first Ironman and they're now like scared to death, and like the finish line won't mean shit if you can't enjoy the journey to get there. Like I immediately thought of like, you have these people who climb and base camp and summit these like incredible mountains, and then I've also seen and the feeling they get from being at the top, and they always remember the journey to get there. And then when you watch like documentaries and stuff, sometimes they helicopter people in to put them on the top, for videos or whatever it is. And I'm like, how different of a view do you think those two people have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of
what they're seeing. And I think that like when you embark on any kind of a journey, whether it's just getting into the sport in general or being in it for 10 years and feeling like you want to accomplish more and do more and be this, if you really ask yourself, like, what to me will let me lay my head down at night after a race or after an event or whatever and think like, man, like that was my enough. And I guarantee you it won't have a time attached to it. It'll be a fulfillment of what you wanted to get out of it that was positive and healthy and energizing, and that's what's going to make you want to come back and do it again, not for the time that you get.
Yep, we all have, or 99% of us won't be going pro in triathlon, but we sometimes trick ourselves into thinking, we can attain, things that are out of our reach, like physically and mentally, and it's probably just better that we put our energies into just being pro at life, and focus on the things we can attain and not set unrealistic expectations for racing, because it's a continual letdown.
Amen.
But let's do it. All right, so there it was. That was the Crushing Iron podcast for...
Yeah, we missed our usual intro today, which is kind of a shame, but that was my fault for having my headset jacked up. Yeah, in case you didn't know, this is the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast. Today is and was February 14th, 2018. Thank you for listening. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you had a good Valentine's Day. Shared it with people you actually care about. Whether it's one person, two people, as a family, with your dog, with friends. From our heart to your heart, thank you.
Dude, you're going to make me cry out here.
Hey, man, I'm just pumped up and ready to see the documentary and the videos from C26 in the city from your trip to New York next week.
Oh, boy, I'll be posting Instagram stories all over the place.
Yes, love it.
If you have an Instagram...
Yeah, I was going to say thanks again to those of you taking the time to give us a review on iTunes. It means a lot to us, and it means even more to other triathletes and aspiring triathletes trying to navigate their way through the podcast triathlon universe. That can be quite tricky, and figure out if they like us. So we appreciate everyone that's done that. And if you have any questions, comments, or just, want to email general tomfoolery, you can find me at c26coach@gmail.com. You can find Mike at crushingiron@gmail.com. And you can check out everything that we do, basically, besides our nonchalant selfie shots on our website, which is crushingiron.com. And that includes gear, camps, coaching, training plans, swim analysis, videos, and other fine images.
And almost 1,000 blog posts.
Dang.
Over the years. Nah, it's probably about 850, but still, it's in the ballpark.
Shit, we can call it almost.
Yeah. All right, well, that'll wrap it up.
Sure.
Are you ready to go, or you want to keep going?
No, I'm good, man. I got to take an athlete call in 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good luck with that, and good luck with training. And please give us feedback, and we will see you next week.
Much love.
All right. See you, buddy.
See you, dude.